Okay. I'm going to pass this around. This is a document here, Managing Cover Crops Profitably. You can get this, I printed this right off the internet. There's a lot of really good information on the internet on cover crops, right, Miles?
The sister book or brother book to that is Building Soils for Better Crops.
Okay.
And it's through SARE as well. Those two books work hand in hand with each other.
Okay, great. So John, we need to get that one. Did you hear that, John? Tell John one more time.
Actually, we'll see on my second slide.
Okay, good. Anyway, I'll pass this around, and if that's something you might have interest in. And then there's also this document I picked up over at Albert Lee Seed House from Matt on herbicide persistence and rotation to cover crops. If people are interested in it, this is probably something we could copy here if you're interested, or I'm sure there's a website here you can go get this.
It's on our website.
It's what?
It's on the Albert Lee Seed website.
Oh, it's on the Albert Lee Seed webpage. Okay, so I'll pass that around, so you can see a little bit on that. We were talking about herbicide utilization with cover crops and what's allowable or not, and so that there's just a tremendous amount of information available in regard to that. Okay, let's just, before Miles starts out and talk to us about healthy soils, questions that you want to ask on what was covered with Matt and TJ? Any questions? Okay.
Covered all the points.
Then why don't you come on up, Miles, and then at the end, maybe you can think of some questions. Well, Miles is coming up. We provide organic fish here. I used to bring it in here in tankers and put it in the back, and then we'd rebottle it. I don't do that anymore. I just frankly got tired of working with liquid fish. And then if you don't get it all sold, it goes bad in the tank. I still got 2 tanks out there from 3 years ago that I got to clean out. And I keep telling my workers, we got to get those tanks cleaned up, and nobody wants to go near it. And
I wonder why.
Huh?
I wonder why.
But this is a wonderful fish product. It's a 15-1-2, and a pound of this is equal to 7 gallons of that. And it goes in the water, it's suspended beautifully, it stays in suspension, just love it. And we've put a lot of this out this year. So, Ken, where's the benefit of using this possibly in a production program? What is this going to do for us? What does this drive?
What kind of fish is it from? Is it lake fish or ocean fish? Where's the source?
It comes out of California. I believe it's ocean fish.
Okay. You'll have a broader range of trace minerals in it if it's ocean fish.
Yeah.
But it's largely going to drive your biology.
Your fungi, right?
Your fungi, your more complex organisms, your protozoa, nematode,
Right, right. So it's not for everybody, but those that are organic or want to go more a biological route, it's another source of nutrition and biological stimulant. Okay.
All right, thank you, Jim. I'm a hands-on learner. Anybody else a hands-on learner? Yes, I like to see and feel things. So today my presentation is I'm going to try and be as hands-on as possible. So we have 2 buckets up here, bucket 1 and bucket 2. They're both the same exact soil type. For as a soil scientist, to me, I think they're both a clay loam soil or loam soil, taken right across the road from one another. So they're the same soil type, but they've been farmed 2 different ways. Okay. So what I would like to try and teach you guys today to do is to go out on your farm and assess your soil health. And hopefully this will help. So I'm just going to walk around real quick. I'm going to show you the 2 different soil types on this tray, or 2 different soil clods. And I want you to start formulating some theories. Which one is the healthier soil, the left or the right one? And what's going to happen to each of these soils when a rain event occurs, or when I go out there to plant? Which one's going to be easier to plant into? All right? So I'm just going to walk around and...
Can you use the 30-pound down pressure?
There you go.
And which one takes
There you
the
go.
90?
I may turn the lights on for this. Is that all right?
Okay. And as I do this, has anybody seen a slake or infiltration test done before on YouTube or at some presentation you have? So then don't blurt out the answers then. What's going to happen to each one of these clods when we completely saturate them, put them 100% underwater? What's going to happen to it?
You're talking about the fish? No. Okay.
So as I'm showing you this, bucket 2 is on my right, bucket 1 is on my left.
Really? It's called Miracle Grow?
Get your hands dirty. Okay. This is bucket 2. Don't be afraid to feel it. Soil doesn't bite.
I can see a difference. Oh, yeah. We're looking at this, maybe.
Okay.
The other one looks like they dug up under an asphalt road.
All right. So anybody, which one do you think is the healthier soil? Bucket 1?
No, that's that 1 or 2. One you got
This
in
is
your
bucket 1 in my hand. Okay.
hand.
Or bucket 2.
Bucket 2 is the one that's got the better looking soil.
Okay. And what's better looking about it? What's keying you off that it's better looking?
It's got earthworm holes in it, and it's more porous looking.
Right on, right on. What's going to happen when we submerge this hard rock soil into water? It's going to be suspended by a mesh, but it's going to be completely underwater.
There ain't going to be much water permeating into that. Right.
Okay, and so will that then make it stay whole, or will it disintegrate and fall apart?
It'll stay whole.
It'll stay whole. Okay. So bucket 1 is going to stay whole when we run the slake test. This is what I'm trying to get at.
And this soil was taken off the same farm, just
2 different farms.
Okay.
So 2 different farming methods. One is a ridge till. One is a conventional till, where they run the chisel plow and deep rip and all that. So, and you're saying bucket 2 is going to
fall apart and absorb water.
okay. And if I did run the infiltration test today, which one would allow the water to infiltrate
Bucket 2
as soon as it comes up?
run straight through.
It's going to be bucket 2.
Everybody's right there.
Okay. I think that's all the further I'm going to go with that.
We seen that happen on my field here about 3.5 weeks ago when we got 7.5 inches of rain.
All my neighbors had water sitting in their fields.
Mhm.
And mind you, I just got county mains in because this is rented ground. But my farm had basically zero water sitting other than what came across the road
back
from
up.
the neighbor.
Yeah, it came back up the top.
And that was just in a small little spot. As it dispersed into my field, it absorbed down. But that's the difference.
Okay. So this next slide, it's going to be a little lengthy, but this goes back to the question Jim had asked, you know, how would you tell a farmer to start doing this cover crop and growing a better soil? And it's quite lengthy, but it's a good read. So today's logic is that most soil-related problems could be dealt with by increasing external inputs. This is the reactive way of farming. You react after seeing a problem. So if a soil is deficient in a nutrient, let's throw some fertilizer at it. If the soil doesn't store enough rainfall water, let's irrigate it. If the soil is too compacted and water or roots cannot easily penetrate, we'll use an implement to dig the soil up and make it loose, right? Or if the disease or insect is there, we'll spray it with some pesticide. So what many people think are individual problems are really just symptoms of a degraded, poor quality soil. These symptoms are usually directly related to depletion of soil organic matter, lack of a thriving and diverse population of soil organisms, and compaction caused by the use of heavy field equipment. Farmers have been encouraged to react to individual symptoms instead of focusing their attention on general soil health management. So our low nutrient status, poor water holding capacity, soil compaction, susceptibility to erosion and disease, nematode, or insect damage, really the individual and unrelated problems, perhaps they are better viewed as symptoms of a deeper underlying problem. The ability to tell the difference between what is the underlying problem and what is only a symptom of a problem is essential to deciding the best course of action. For example, if you're hitting your head against a wall and you get a headache, is the problem the headache and the solution aspirin? Clearly, the real problem is your behavior and not the headache. And the best solution is to stop banging your head against the wall. And this is an excerpt from that book, Building Soils for Better Crops. That is the sister book or brother book to the one being passed around. There's a lot of other good information in that book, but this is in the opening introduction of that book, and it really summarizes how we need to switch our thoughts, our thinking, if this is really going to work. And being here today is the start of that, if you haven't already. So soil health, by definition, I think Matt touched on it before, it's the continued capacity of the soil to function as a vital living system that sustains plant, animal, and human health. All right? So soil health by observation, and this is stuff that you can do on your farm. You know, every spring, is it allowing the rainfall and snow melt to easily infiltrate into the soil, or are you having ponds right up until you plant, or close to? Is it providing sufficient water to plants during dry spells, or are your corn leaves curling? Do you often see nutrient deficiencies? Is your corn striped yellow? Sometimes, you know, that's not good. And does your soil crust when it's dry out? We don't want crusting soil. Because what happens with that is the same thing that happened in Mark's field with the platy structure. And if you think about it, if the soil is crusted here and here, and there's only this one crack for the rainwater to fall through, all this is collecting water, running off, and then it starts to collect in this crack here in the middle, and that's what starts your rill erosion and leads to gully erosion. All right? Does your soil have beneficial organisms like mycorrhizae fungi? Yes, we were talking before about how the more root hairs you can get on roots, the more nutrients it can take up. Well, if you can get fungi to attach to them root hairs, you just multiplied it by a logarithm.
But how do we do that, Mom?
I'll get to that, but the the disturbing of the soil with mechanical equipment makes it so that it's an environment that the mycorrhizae fungi do not want to live in. And through more diversity and through less disturbance, that mycorrhizae fungi will build. I'll touch on that though. Does your field take more power, bigger equipment, and higher down pressure to plant until you're the same fields? That's an observation right there that can help you decide what direction your field is moving in. Does your soil plow up cloddy? Or does it look like cottage cheese? We call it cottage cheese. People from Wisconsin might get that a little better. And then when you dig up when you take your shovel out and you stick it in the ground at some random spot and you dig out a square foot of soil, are you finding 10 to 15 earthworms? That should be your goal. That should be your goal. So does a healthy soil look like this? You can see this field is wet and it's already cracking. It's already starting to crust. And that was this spring. Does a healthy soil do this? Do you see the color of this soil up here? Is that topsoil? Or is that your subsoil?
It looks like subsoil.
This is your subsoil up here. This is your topsoil sitting down here in the lows. This is a ridge up here. It's all been run down the hill. Okay? What about this picture? Anyone know what snert is?
Dirt mixed with snow.
Yes.
Snowmobile.
Minnesotans know that. Yeah, you drive I-90 here in the wintertime. This is along I-90 just west of here, about 20 minutes. And this is what we call snert. It is wind-blown soil from the fields, and it collects in the ditches. We need to stop this. This needs to end as soon as possible. You see every spring, farmers are cleaning out their tile drain ditches. Where's all that soil coming from?
Their fields.
It's most likely coming from snert during the winter. Okay? Or does a healthy soil look like this? This is Mark Dittleson's place that TJ touched on before. This is right behind the planter. He's planting right into a cereal rye. 36 pounds of down pressure, or 30 pounds. And does it promote life? Right here, where you can see the laser pointed. Anyone know what that is?
Casting from a worm.
That's a poop casting from a worm, yep.
That's beautiful.
And this is looking right down a turnip hole. The turnip hole was about the size of my water bottle.
Turnip or a radish?
Radish. Okay. I get them mixed up because the radishes that you eat,
Yeah.
they look like the turnips that we plant in the field for cover crop. So I always get them mixed up.
Yeah.
And here's mycorrhizae fungi right here. Fungal hyphae. You can see it when you're in the field. When I was digging around in this, and I brought up some winter wheat roots that are real close to this radish hole, there was this white hair growing off of the roots, and that's your mycorrhizae fungi. Okay, so when you see that white, don't freak out. It's good. It's good. That's what you want. All right. All right, let's go outside and see the Slaken infiltration test and see what our theories on these two, if they hold up.
See if they hold water.
For someone who don't think that's going to have to make a statement, can I flip-flop those? I'm going to say bucket number 2 will stay together and bucket number 1 will disintegrate.
Okay, and explain your thinking.
Bucket number 2 is your soil that's aggregated. It's got wormholes and everything else. it's also got structure. The structure's got glue, it's gonna hold together, it's not gonna break apart. Number one has nothing, it's gonna fit.
Yeah, I conclude with that. Number two is gonna suck up water and it's not gonna fall apart.
It's not gonna fall apart.
Do we
Well-
need to go out?
Let's go watch. Humor me. Humor me.
think about texting us, like the special, what you got on this, and just, comes on the phone back. All right, like I showed you with John Deere.
Yeah.
Well, I need a few parts, I'm out to get my $10. Spend 50, get 10 off.
More and more companies are starting to do that.
Yeah.
Winfield is texting too. Hey, John, that's a great idea. More and more companies are texting, like I'm getting texting from Winfield, instead of texting from John Deere when they have a special. Let's say it's time to do something. Just put out text to everybody.
Tell you how to.
And I even get pictures sometimes in the text. That's an idea of outreach.
Well, you're not making no phone call thing for this, and then you think about it more because you're not going to take it off the phone, right? They got a special on steel chainsaws and their products that comes off. Boom, boom, boom. Then you think about it more.
It looks pretty, so you don't see it.
They show them that Michigan. This what John Deere does. We don't do that. Well, you should tell your boss, try and do that. You've got X amount of customers,
Okay, looks like everyone's back. Let's revisit those theories that we had right away. So bucket 1 is a conventionally plowed soil, which is a plow deep ripper. Water sits on top of the soil and slowly infiltrates every spring and during heavy rainfalls. And when we do the slake test, it disintegrates due to low levels of glomalin, organic matter, and soil structure, just like Dave pointed out. Bucket 2 is a ridge till operation. Now, he does use the cuss word, anhydrous. So that could be part of the reason why it doesn't hold together as well. Yes, we do try and shame him as much as possible. So.
You can't shame him.
No, he takes it, But it is a ridge till operation. So ridge till I look at as the same as a strip till system. It's a good in between plowing 100% of your ground to not plowing 100% of your ground. It's a good in between, and I think that's mainly the reason why Mark this spring was able to do it. He's already got a start. He's been ridge tilling for 30 years. So he has some soil structure. If you were to go from this and it'd be like quit smoking today, cold turkey, and you're going to go right into no-till, it's not going to work as quick. Okay? Mark's is working nicely. His ground is already mellow to a point. Now he's just mellowing it out even more and providing better soil structure. So in this line of creating a healthier soil, cover crops will help in the transition to minimize tillage, but you may have to go to a strip till or ridge till system for 10, 15 years to mellow the ground out before you can go 100% no-till. But that, I see that as a good in-between. Good transition. It helps to mellow the soil out, and it may not hurt as much. I don't, But again, my experience level with this is pretty low as far as that goes, transitioning farmers. And bucket 2, the clod holds up steady when saturated due to the different pore spaces like I described outside and the higher organic matter and glomalin levels.
Okay, then that would explain why some of these, where we see the 7.5-inch rain, that ground ends up getting flattened out like a pancake.
Yes.
Is because it's so hard that soil particle then dissolves instantly.
Right. So if you can envision this, a a soil ped is, you know, one of them little cottage cheese things. When it's in this bucket 2 situation, bucket 1 situation where it's a hard clod, and that raindrop is like a bullet, and it hits and it breaks it apart very easily, okay? When it breaks apart very easily, it then settles into its lowest spot, and then it just grows hard, okay? Well, so during your big rains, it's happening millions of times, and that's why it's getting so hard, and there's no structure. That's where the structure really comes in, is to let that water infiltrate through the soil so that it doesn't plug up all them holes. And
That's an area of using a winter cover crop into the spring, as we get those hard pony rains in the spring. That rye or whatever you have stand there actually splits that raindrop when it comes down and disperses it out.
Yep.
So it doesn't hit the ground like
Yep.
it
It's like hitting a pillow before it falls nicely onto the ground. Yep. And that's where, you know, even residue management with NRCS programs, even residue management, that helps that as well. So we saw that. So the NRCS has 4 steps to achieving a healthier soil. And Matt described a few of them before. It is minimizing disturbance of that soil. It is maximizing the diversity, so that's where your cover crop mixes come in. Or even growing different cash crops. If you throw wheat into a corn-soybean rotation, that will help as well. And then, if you did throw wheat into a corn-soybean rotation, the wheat comes off about this time of year, a little bit later, August, and then you have more time to put in a diverse cover crop species mix. I sat in on a webinar this week on Tuesday, and the guy's doing exactly what I just said. He plants wheat. After wheat, he does a 15 species cover crop mix, and then he plants corn right into it the next year. Says it's the easiest, mellowest ground ever.
Okay, would that work then? Say you want to still keep doing your crop rotation, but if you did the small grain, put the cover crop in, would that be good enough for the next 2 years until you went back to small grain to do your cover crop?
It would help. It would definitely help.
Substantially then?
Yeah. But you could still do after soybeans then, you know, to set up for the wheat the next year.
Well, it depends what you do with your tillage too. You know, I mean, if you go back out and you do that, then you roll that ground black for 2 years with a big soft plow.
Okay.
You took a step right in
You
reverse.
kind of reverse what you gained. You gained
Correct.
You
Correct.
turned right around and destroyed it again. I had a customer did that this year. He just had a pulse in his cover crop stuff, and we had some of that soil out there. Jim was showing him. He just could not leave it alone. He had to plow it. He plowed it. And in the early part of the year, you could see the difference in that corn. It was 4 to 6 inches higher in the cover crops versus the plowing. The plowing was shorter. Whatever he gained, he flipped right back over and destroyed it in 1 year. It's his farm. I can't stop him.
And again, that's where Matt was saying with the tillage radishes, plowing them in the fall.
But economics will eventually drive that.
Oh,
You know, $3 corn.
economics drives the bus all the time. I mean, when we could have the $7 corn, that $450,000 four-wheel drive is not going to be bought. You know, so it goes down. What can I afford? What can I manage? We've done all this before. Most of us in this room have been through that at some point in their life where it was like, well, let's feed the kids or buy a cracker. Let's feed the kids. We're back at that point again right now. Sorry.
Yep, that's fine. The third step into achieving a healthy soil is to keep living roots in the ground. That's where these overwintering cover crops come in. And even though the temperature we feel is very low, there is still biology working with the roots in the ground all through the winter. And then come spring, ground starts to warm up, biology starts to speed up, and with more biology, it actually warms the soil a little bit faster if you have very good biology, all right? And, you know, you say you want to warm up the soil, so that's why people are tilling it. Well, here's biology doing the same thing.
Now, you had experience checking some temperatures this spring, didn't you?
Yes, we had a preventive plant field, and the field that this was taken out of, So it was chiseled last fall, and the preventive plant field was allowed to overwinter. And this April, as the frost was coming out of the ground, I went out there to take measurements on the frost thickness, how deep the frost was from the surface as the temperature warmed up, and also the temperature of the soil at about 2 to 4 inches. And in the preventive plant field that overwintered, the temperature, soil temperature at 2 to 4 inches was only ever 3 degrees less than the chisel plowed field. And by the time that planting came around, they were both the same soil temperature. The one major thing that I saw that even surprised me was the frost came out of the ground faster in the preventive plant. And you're thinking, well, the other field was warmer though. Well, what happened was all the roots from the preventive plant crops allowed the snow to infiltrate into the ground, and that water actually broke up the frost layer quicker. So that was a neat find that I didn't expect this spring. And then finally, keep the soil covered with plants and plant residue. So then we were supposed to have a soil pit today too, so this is going to be our soil pit today. And as a soil scientist, I'm taught to break out soil horizons so that I can classify the soil as a certain type of soil, and that's going to spit out all these different interpretations for you farmers to use. So I'll just walk you through real quick. Right here, there's a line. This is our topsoil, and this is going to be our subsoil. Okay. Now there's a couple lines in this one, but the major break is right here. Topsoil is nice and dark, black, because it's high in organic matter, and it has a lot of life going on in it. Subsoil, dead and structureless. That's the main thing I want to point out about subsoil is that it does not have the soil structure that the topsoil does. Now, why is that? The lack of roots. Okay? Roots create soil structure. So that's like with CRP, yeah, and biology, but like CRP fields have a lot of roots in it. And then when you come back, plow it up, oh, that's the mellowest ground I've ever had. So keeping living roots in the soil is going to keep building that soil structure, all right? And it's going to keep bringing organic matter back into the soil and keeping that dark and black. Now, every year, spring rolls around, farmers bring out the cultivators, they're cultivating their fields, and I see that these ridges or knolls on these rolling hills, they grow yellower and yellower and bigger every year. Erosion. So that's what happened back in that other slide that I showed, where that ridge was yellow and the bottom was black. All the topsoil went to the low. Well, so then what's happening is that farmer is now farming his subsoil. And farming that subsoil, you're farming less structured soil. It's already set up to fail. It's got less structure. It's got less organic matter, which lowers your cation exchange capacity, which lowers the amount of available nutrients to your plants.
And what really takes a hold, Miles, is when you tell them it takes 25 years of 200 bushel corn on corn, to make 1 inch of black topsoil. That now starts to add up. It's like, okay, if I screw up here, I can lose 15 years of topsoil in 1 year from wind or soil water erosion.
Yeah. And, you know, one thing I asked a farmer once, I go, how much topsoil do you have? What do you mean? Like, I don't know, soil. No, how much topsoil do you have? And we went out and dug a hole, and about 13 inches, okay? He had about 13 inches of this black. And I said, how many inches off of this do you think you lose every year? He's like, I don't know, you know. I said, well, say you lost 1 inch of soil a year. I'll be nice to you. And I said, how many more years can you still farm this knoll before you hit subsoil? 13 years. And then you're going to be farming your subsoil. So we need to keep the living roots in the ground, and we need to keep residue on the top of the soil so that we can keep our topsoil in place. Okay? Because otherwise, you're farming this yellow stuff, which is subsoil, which is already set up for failure because it's structuralist. That's the way the glacier laid it. All right? Now, if you are already farming this, that's where you want to use a cover crop and leave your most residue on the ground so that you can start to build this black stuff back up. Okay? I just want to run through a little cycle here. What happens when we plow? So we plow, right? Residues are mixed with the soil, and carbon dioxide is pumped into the system. That's what's happening. Microbiology feeds off of that carbon dioxide, and they explode. They're set into overdrive. They're breaking down everything, which is what the farmers want. We want that residue broken down so that it doesn't wrap in our planters next year and in our tillage equipment. But at the same time, soil organic matter is the easiest thing for that bacteria and biology to eat at that time. So the first thing to go is the soil organic matter before your crop residue. So you're decreasing your soil organic matter in that way. And then, with less soil organic matter, we are creating less water holding capacity, worse soil structure, and lowering our cation exchange capacity. So again, you can see the importance of where we need to decrease the amount of times we run a tillage implement over the ground. I'm not saying that we should do it completely, but we need to minimize it. There are going to be times when you may need to, and it's okay, but decrease it as much as possible.
Miles, would you say investing absolutely had to, once you get towards this system, you go in that direction and everything like that, would you say once you've got your inner, what I would call inner structurally sound and everything, you don't want to disturb it, would you say maximum depth would probably be no more than 3 inches to do any kind of tillage?
Correct. Correct. Make
The rest of that is
Yeah.
structure and your root systems and stuff, you're fine getting
right.
there a little bit.
Right, like Ken was saying before, to incorporate that, you know, it just needs it on the surface. It just needs a light turn. Just get it, see the soil contact, or phosphate, I think you were talking about before. So, let's see if I forgot anything. And Matt brought this up before. The biggest thing that we're running into with selling soil health to farmers and turning from a conventionally tilled land towards a no-till land is that we haven't really come up with a sound price tag on it. We can't account for every single penny like your fertilizer companies can. Oh, if you put 150 pounds of this on, it's 1 penny per plant. Or, you know, we can't do that yet because there's no way to measure life.
Put a price tag.
Right.
Just tell them it's priceless.
It's priceless. There you go. But that's all I have for today. I wish I could have been out in the soil pits to get your hands a little dirtier so you could feel the difference between subsoil and topsoil. But hopefully you got the picture. And any questions?
We do appreciate all the hard work you're doing, and just keep it up. Because, you know, as farmers need to become more educated like Jim's been doing with us, but we need to hear it from more avenues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's where in March I started up the Freeborn County Soil Health Team. I pulled in businesses like Jim's, like Midwest BioAg, Albert Lee Seed House, Legacy Seed, and we have a very diverse team. We have Shell Rock Watershed District in with this. We have another watershed district. We have certified crop consultants. We have not RMA. We have crop insurance guy. So we have a very diverse team. That way, at any point when we're talking about a certain idea that we want to start portraying, someone can speak up and say, oh, here's the problems you're going to run into. So we can plan ahead.
Let me ask you this here. We have a discussion in the team a lot. To me, the team is, the title describes what it is, soil health. But it's also about water quality. Here in Freeborn County, we have a group of farmers. To me, they're a little bit arrogant. And
In what regard?
What county do you live in, Jim?
huh?
What county do you live in?
No, but I mean,
They fear change. They fear change.
yeah, they fear change, peer pressure, but they just don't want to even take the time to open up and to listen or discuss or, you know,
Yeah, the idea that
a lot of it is a co-op mentality. And we have a lot of discussion, you know, and I tell them, if we're going to be successful, we got to demonstrate, but we got to find a way to reach these people. And so, what kind of feedback or what could you tell us to do where we could? Because really, I think we all realize in the room here that soil health is really the future of our society, our economy. So how do we, you know, it's a blow and go method right now, and the attitude, I got to farm more acres to make it go, and
Here's my,
tremendous. I mean, if you went around this county after that rainfall event we had this spring, the erosion was horrendous, just really appalling.
it cut gullies in a lot of counties. Ours was.
no, yeah. Here's my interpretation on that. We are on the verge of major change coming. This is a pivotal year. Look at our crop prices. Look at the world supply. Look what's going on. From the banking industry view, there are lots of issues that will be happening this fall. This is the year the weak ones get weeded out. Then the ones that have enough working capital can hang in there until next year. But if we have another year where we have high production, low crop prices worldwide, we are going to see more people get out of the system. It's coming.
I think what's different now than the 80s is our land values have gone so high.
But
But how does a banker look at that and as part of working capital?
land values have gotten high, but lenders got smarter. They were told, don't you do what you did in the 80s or you're going to be in trouble. None of the banks are in that position. Or Production Credit Association, none of those people are. If you were coming into me and telling me that this land that's coming up for sale, 160 acres, I think it's going to go for, gee whiz, 7,000, 8,000. I said, okay, I think I can finance 2,500. You're going to come up with the rest of it. And that's the way it was. I don't care if you went to the PCA, the bank, whatever. That's what was going on. People had the cash to do that. That's why the land prices kept going up. Now, that cash is fastly dwindling very quickly. And overall, the insurance system won't be pulling a lot of those guys out of their troubles this year. Because the guys that did have a few minor hiccups in their production didn't get enough to get the insurance claim to help their cash flow. I call that the bubble. They made their guarantee, so they're not going to get an insurance payment. They're going to be scrambling. There's going to be a lot of scrambling coming up. I foresee this. And how we get to these people is this. Listen, guys, you can't keep going the direction you're going. From a financial standpoint, did $3.60 corn help you out? Heck no. What do you need to do? What was your yield? Oh, well, we checked it in August. We thought we were going to get about 250. What'd you wind up with? 175. Okay. How do you get that 175 up to 250? Because that's the problem area for all farmers right now is that difference between the yield check in August and the final call in November is where the farmers right now are losing too damn much money. I've seen it over and over again, and it drove me nuts. I couldn't really get a finger on it. Here's what I finally come up with, the GMO effect. Because I knew GMO corn was not breeding nutrition in it, it was crap. Okay, I guess we'll have to wait and to see what happens, but there will come a time when things have to change. We're getting into that scenario. This is strictly my opinion, but I see this coming. Okay, Dennis, organic crops. What is the organic corn? What has happened to the demand of organic corn?
It's going up like you wouldn't believe.
What is the price now, Jerry? Did you say it was 16 to 18 bucks?
Well, Tim I called Tim, I talked to him yesterday, and he's selling corn for $14.75. But that's going to a, and what's driving this is the egg market. The egg market is doubling every year. They're expanding that fast.
$14.75.
$14.75. I can see the organic corn, at harvest time it'll be about $12.
Yeah, but even at $12, it's a far cry from the $3 that
Right.
we're all looking at.
Right. In your organic rye, just to give you an idea, your organic rye is going to fall in that $12 range too.
Well, this
12,
spring,
Yeah.
my brothers, they heard all the neighbors were talking. You couldn't find oats, and if you could, you were paying $9 a bushel for it. So now next year, my one brother and I were tempted to put in 50 acres each of oats.
Yeah.
Just because if you can get $9 a bushel for it, it's a piece of cake to raise 100 bushel an acre oats.
Yeah.
And then start transitioning maybe into.
See, right now with all your government agencies, your FSAs and all these people are really encouraging cover crops. Everybody's on the same bandwagon, and this seems to be the place for the conventional people are, and this is why the John Deere magazine Furrow is out there promoting cover crops. It's a kind of a drop the shoe softly on what you should be and how you should be improving your land. That's why I got to see. I've seen this over the years now. I can't believe it. You see a cover crop issue maybe once a year or something like that. Now you see 3-4 articles in the same publication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just seen how Minnesota River, we're the biggest polluters of the Mississippi Gulf. It's like, I can see the issues you guys face.
And water
Because
quality.
then you're trying to tell us, hey, we need to do a better job. It's a difficult scenario.
But getting back to Jerry on the organic corn, you're looking at $12 a bushel. What is the underlying reason why you're getting that money?
Say again?
What do you think the underlying reason is that you're still able to get $12 a bushel? Because the demand's up, right?
Demand's up. I think
There's no support.
See, here's a mentality that the conventional people have, and also the organic purchaser of that organic corn. Well, I should have to pay more than 3 or 4 times that for organic corn. It should be just double what the conventional market is. If they're going to get over it, they just won't have it. They'll have to go out of business.
Right,
But they won't do that.
but there's another factor there I'll bring up. The demand for organic corn is going up because the consumer Madam Consumer in the grocery store is saying, I don't want
She's driving it.
that chicken. I want organic. I want range-fed, grass-fed, organic meat.
Right.
I'm sick and tired of eating this stuff and taking my kids to the emergency room.
That's right.
There's where I think our biggest change is also started.
Well, I go to Meal Clinic Keto too, and my, that's unbelievable of people with what's happening with
It is
the
the health
families.
industry claiming it's going to get way worse in a short period of time.
Yeah, I think if you listen to Dr. Richard Mayfield last night, he pretty well laid it out. what's going to take place. And I think more and more people are hearing that story and realizing that they've got to change something if they want to maintain their health. And that's going to continue to escalate. Now, okay. What questions do you have regarding cover crops or what Miles talked about? Any more discussion along this line? Yes.
Is there still counties that are doing incentive programs yet, or is that kind of gone?
NRCS has all sorts of different incentives for cover crops. Right now, there is a 5-year cover crop health, or cover soil health.
Does this sound?
Yeah.
Now, I'm the soil scientist. I'm not a conservationist, so I don't know the programs inside and out like the conservationist would. But I know what we have. We have the one incentive program. It's 5 years on the exact same acres, and that is...
The name of it is called EQIP.
Yes, it's under EQIP. So if you go into your local NRCS office and you ask the district conservationist there,
Right.
the DC, he's the head guy, and you ask him, you say, you know, I want to start cover cropping this year. He will lay out all the different incentive programs for you, depending on how many acres you want to put in, and he will tell you the pros and cons of each of them for the situation that you're in.
The only problem with what I don't like about that is they tell you what you can plant. I don't like that.
Right.
You mean they take the decision out of your hands and you're forced to grow what they, okay.
They tell you what they want you to put.
For example, there's one incentive program which I believe is the most money. It's a 1-year deal, 3 species cover crop mix. And you only have certain plants to choose from, and you can only do 3 species. So for his situation where he wants to do 10, he could not do that incentive program.
Well, I went to this. I've been going down this line lately too. You gotta, they call it, you gotta get a DUN number. I gotta go out there to find out what's going on there to get into the program to start with. And for me, because I was planting cover crops, I says, well, I've been planting cover crops. Well, then you don't qualify. I says, time out here. Time out here. Let's start the conversation over.
You mean because you're being penalized because
Yeah.
you're already doing it?
Yeah, I'm being penalized because I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And, you know, discrimination without representation, right?
Well, the thought of it is we want to get new people started in.
I know.
So we don't have to give you any more incentive because you already know the incentive. So people that don't have any experience get rated higher, and they're the ones that get the money first because we want to get more people incentivized. That's why they're called incentive programs.
Right.
So,
But you wish you would still be able to be rewarded.
Well, I'm going to.
equally.
I'll work on that. I'll work on that.
Okay.
But there's other things probably in that EQIP program that he might qualify for.
yes, and for anyone that has cattle, there's different programs for putting up fences. There's too many programs, I think. You can at least find one that'll fit your situation if you go to the NRCS.
Okay. Any other questions regarding cover crops, soil health? Okay. We just want do a couple things here, and then we're going to finish up. Dennis, are you the one who's going to talk just a little bit about Goswilt? All I want to do on Goswilt is just show them what it looks like, what to look for. Goswilt is something that has come on. It was a little disease in Nebraska. Now it's gone from Louisiana all the way up into Canada, and it's devastating. It's a bacteria that tends to, it can be carried right in the seed or in the soil in the residue. It's exploded, we think, because of our cultural practices driven again by glyphosate, the GMO mentality, because of what glyphosate's done to our microbial diversity. And we feel we had customers last year that lost 50 to over 100 bushel an acre due to Goswilt. And it not only does it in the field, but it'll work it in the bin too. And we had an elevator down here in northwest Iowa that put a big pile of corn in, and when they took it out, they were short a bunch of bushels. Yeah, it was close to 1 million bushels. And they thought, they actually fired some employees over it until they figured out it was gauze wilt. And yeah, yeah. And so maybe Ken can kick in on this a little bit if you got time, or you're going somewhere else, I don't know. But gauze wilt, we're going to just talk briefly about gauze wilt, make them available, aware.
Gauze's wilt is becoming an extremely severe problem in corn. It started out kind of in Iowa, and actually it started in eastern Nebraska and northeast Iowa back in the 70s. It was just a little pocket. We've taken a minor puny disease and made it into a ferocious lion.
No, we really didn't do that. Sorry.
Okay.
It's still a wimpy, piss-ass little organism. We just took out all the bullies that ever kept it in place. Excuse me.
No, that makes sense.
So it's still wimpy,
Just
but
has no
we don't have nothing to keep it in check.
Sure.
Well, when they first went to Roundup Ready, they had to drop all the good lines because they did not convert to Roundup.
Okay, so Dennis, you kind of lay the groundwork, you and Ken, and then Ken, maybe talk a little bit about what's coming down the road that we might be able to help.
We just this last year, they've got Gauze's wilt clear down in Louisiana. They just identified it last summer, and they didn't know how to identify it because they'd never seen it before. So they took it over to the university, and they did identify and confirm that it was Gauze's wilt all the way down in Louisiana. They have it up in Manitoba, North and South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, of course. I assume it's in Illinois and Indiana. But one of the first symptoms that you'll see, and you'll see it in the Dakotas particularly, and Minnesota that I've seen, is this pink color. And this isn't the best picture. Right there. See how pink these leaves look. And you can go drive right down the road and just go 55, 60 mile an hour, and this is very evident. You'll see like a pink hue. Usually starts on the lower part of the plant, can start at the top of the plant. But what happens is that disease will start to spread either up or down that plant, and it can shut that plant down in really 5 to 7 days. I've seen it happen. And, you know, it affects test weight. It shuts all the photosynthesis down. It takes, let me go back a picture here. See right here, we've got these black specks. And the best way to identify it is to take your leaf, hold it up to the sunlight, and you'll see these black specks. And if you have that, you definitely have Gauze's wilt. Now, what does that mean? We've talked about different ways with the residue, breaking the residue down properly. That's going to help with Gauze's wilt. But we've also confirmed that it's in our seed already. So you're kind of against the 8 ball on that one. So what do we have to do? We have to build up our biology in our soil and hopefully get the big guys to push it out of the way.
And get the plant healthier.
Exactly, and get the plant healthier.
And conventional survive better than Roundup Ready.
Well, we used to think that, but the thing is, if it's in the seed, it's in the conventional seed too. But theoretically, yes, conventional corn should survive it better than GMO corn.
Now, Ken, you've done a lot of work in this area. So, what do you see as management of this, or what can we do? Obviously, we talked about how you identify.
Well, Gauze's wilt, which is Clavibacter michiganensis nebraskaensis, is gram-positive. It's not a really virulent organism. It's pretty wimpy. But we have done such a great job at eliminating the good guys in the soil that there really is very little holding it back from what it does. So it's more of an imbalance than simply dealing with a very, very tenacious organism. So the first thing, the first defense that's going to be ever meaningful is to get your soil biology back. That's what always had kept it in check for decades, if not centuries before. Goss's wilt isn't new. The organism isn't new. It's been here but kept in check. So the first one is get an active biological profile back into your soil. What you don't have when you do a soil biology test is you don't have your higher predators. Your main organisms you're missing are fungi. That's why things don't decompose. But you don't have your protozoa. You don't have your nematode. And these are primary predators on these bacteria. And so until you get your predators back in there and your good guys that produce the antibiotics and the natural compounds to deal with the pathogens, you're not going to turn this tide. Now, in the meantime, Goss's wilt has spread because there's so little restriction from stopping it. So first is your biological defense. And the next one is your plant health. All right? Healthy plants have their own phytoalexin, plant secondary metabolite compounds that they can produce as a defense mechanism. The fact that your plant isn't producing those means you have a mineral deficient plant. Again, there are no healthy plants, guys. They're either half sick with no symptoms or they're sick showing symptoms. These are sick showing symptoms. Okay? Now, Goss's wilt is already coming up off of the brace roots. You get out in your field, you start looking, you're going to start to see these black and brown freckles, and it's coming up. In a lot of fields, it's a month early. As it spreads, you're going to be shutting down in August, not in September. So tell me what that does to your field.
No yield.
That's worse, right? Because oftentimes we're shutting down during the field, not before the field. So this is going to be weather related, it's going to be stress related, but there is a bit of good news on the horizon. Salam, the gentleman I work with that makes a lot of these really innovative products, he is working and has worked to find a solution for bacterial ring rot in potatoes, which happens to be Clavibacter michiganensis cepedencus subspecies. Well, we can kill that organism every which way coming and going. That organism is the twin sister of the same mother as Goss's wilt. So we will put out tests this year, and with probably 100% certainty we will kill it too. So, but you got to remember, it's a patch. This is not a solution, guys. The problem is poor soil biology, poor plant nutrition. Okay, you get that back in place, then that will go a long ways to curbing this problem. Now your seed is still going to have it in it. Does it have to become a reality in your plant? No, it does not. Okay, do we all produce cancer every day? Do we have cancer cells in our body every single day? You bet we do. But our immune system discards them very, very quickly because it's functional. Plants have the same capacity if that system is functional. So all these things you've been talking about that we've gone through the last several days here, your biology, your soil mineral balancing, your cover crops, it's a management system. It's not a dump, plant, and run to Florida program. Okay? And if you guys are going to change things, you need to be part of all of this. So fundamentally, get things back into place that are going to do you the most good for the longest period of time. There's a lot of expensive patches out there that will buy you another day or buy you another week. Spend your money on the fundamental principles that will give you long-term health and success. And it isn't a fungicide, it isn't an insecticide, it isn't one of these patch your Titanic kind of products. Fix it.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Okay. We got one more thing we'd like to do, and then we're going to wrap it up. And I don't know if Dennis and Dave are both involved in this, but we're just going to look at some highlights real quickly with Dennis and what he's seen. And I don't know if Dave's got any in here or not, but you want to go ahead and take us through that?
Okay, like Jim said, there was just some pictures and that type of thing. Just wanted to show you what we're seeing. This is Ken here. Our starter program we had. Look at the root system and look at the difference in height. This is Ken had some issues with the starter. This plant didn't get any starter at all. Any of the biological program, this plant did. But there's a difference of 4 or 5 inches there. Look at your root system here too. Look at the amount of root hairs on this plant versus this one. This one's going to struggle if we ever get into a drought. I see an issue if we do go into a drought that our roots are not going very deep. So some of these fields that have these shallow root systems, they don't have a lot of root hairs, are really going to struggle.
Especially when we have a wind event or something like that.
Yep, exactly.
That wind, 85-mile-an-hour wind still, with that good root system, still didn't help much.
No.
You might be surprised when you get back from gambling, it'll all be straight back up.
And here's a picture of Ken's soil right here. Look at the biology. We were talking about the cottage cheese effect that Miles was talking about. I call it the coffee ground effect, same type of thing. Look at the PEDs. This soil just falls apart nicely in your hand and crumbles, but it's going to infiltrate. That water's going to go right through it. You're not going to have ponding on top of the ground. You have structure to this. You have glomalin in it. All the bonds to hold that soil together and keep it from eroding. There's more organic matter in it, and this soil is going to get through a drought much better than a soil that we were talking about before, that blocky stuff right there. It's got the sharp angles. You can't penetrate that unless you have a hammer. And here's just another picture of the roots. Look at the amount of root hairs on this plant. We do have the bioseed coat on this. So we've got the mycorrhizae fungi, we've got the Pseudomonas, I'm trying to think of all the different ones, Trichoderma in there. All these different organisms are promoting growth, promoting vigor, promoting germination, and of course promoting root hairs and mycorrhizae growth. And I think you would see mycorrhizae in here if you had a microscope.
Which one is that, Dennis? Is that the bioseed coat from?
This is one. He only had 1 row out of what, 24. 2 rows out of 24 that didn't have the starter on it. Basically, that's his check, but it was an accident. It wasn't an accident. The starter came off in those tubes, but this is with all the program, with all the products. And also, he put soft rock phosphate and elemental sulfur on in the fall as well.
Okay.
So, and he used anhydrous, but we won't go there. Tillage program, you're using like a chisel, didn't you?
And our chisel plow last fall, I put anhydrous on with knives.
Yeah.
And once on this field, once across with Great Plains Turbo Max, then I seeded it.
And again, here's another comparison with the starter program versus the control. Look at the amount of root hairs. The roots are going much deeper, much more fibrous root system, broader root system.
These plants are taken, from this row to this row, right straight across from each other.
Yep, side by side. And here's a picture of his soybeans. Look how tiny these soybeans are, but look at the root system down here. There's a tremendous amount of root hairs on these plants. You don't see soybeans like that typically. Typically what you see is a few, maybe 3 or 4 roots on a plant like this, and no root hairs, very few nodules.
These have lots of nodules.
They do, they do. Right here you can see the nodules. And soybeans have really been struggling this year because it's been too cold and too wet, especially up in your neck of the woods. But these were doing pretty good compared to some of the other fields. And here's a closer up look of the soybean plant, the amount of root hairs and how deep those roots are going. Nice big nodule right there. This is something I wanted to talk about a little bit too. The use of starter fertilizer, I think, is extremely important. And especially in our cold, wet soils. This is from South Dakota. That's not Ponset. I put the wrong label on there. This is from a farmer up by his area, and it's actually fallow syndrome. But my point is that when you don't use starter, you don't have the uptake of phosphorus, and you're going to get plants like this. They'll turn purple, like this, and that's a buildup of sugars. And what fallow syndrome is basically they didn't have anything on that land because it was a PP. So they didn't put a cover crop or anything out there. Nothing was growing, so you didn't have anything for the mycorrhizae to feed on. So they had no mycorrhizae. They came back, planted corn the next season, and since they didn't use a starter, they had no phosphorus uptake whatsoever. So these plants are just starving for phosphorus. So the point of it is definitely think about using a starter fertilizer. And if you are going to use a starter fertilizer, we like to put the BioRelease in there to stabilize it. And what it does is it takes your phosphorus, which is a 3 negative charge phosphorus, and turns it into a neutral charge so it doesn't tie up with calcium and magnesium and that type of thing. You're going to get more efficient use out of that starter.
And my soybeans do have 9 gallons of 1034. Plus what? BioRelease. 9 gallons. Yes.
9 gallons.
9 gallons of 1034 and BioRelease. Yeah. Well, maybe before the wind, but the soybeans are still doing well. They're still upright anyway. Okay, this is from Ponset Colony. This is eastern South Dakota. This area had not received our starter program with the biology, the BioRelease. And you can see how cloddy this soil is, how dry it looks, lack of structure, lack of biology. There's a decent root system here, but this soil is drying out. And here's side by side, the control had no starter, and this side did have the starter. This side has the BioRelease plus the starter, and this side actually had starter on it, but no BioRelease. Look at the difference in the root system and the height of the plant, the health of the stalk right here. There's a big difference there, so it'll be interesting to see what the difference will be in yield. Millerdale is another colony I work with out of Miller, South Dakota, central South Dakota. This is a colony that, beginning usually in July, they don't get more than an inch of rain per month. They really struggle for rain. They don't have a whole lot of organic matter in their soil. They hope for 100 bushel corn. Before we got there, they had hoped for 100 bushel corn yield average. Now they're getting 120, 125, and they have fields that'll go 140, 150. We've really helped get their biology going, and we've made a big difference. You can dig in their soils now, where before you have to hop on the shovel to get the shovel to penetrate that ground because it was so hard. And here's some soybean plants. They had our whole program on them, and that includes, Mali, micronutrient mix, BioRelease with the starter. But they also had our soil biology boost. We did not seed treat for them just didn't work out logistically. But we use Soil Biology Boost, which is the same thing that's on our BioSeed coat and on our Profit coat. So you're getting all your mycorrhizae, your trichoderma, your Pseudomonas, all these different microorganisms. And you can see the root hairs down here on these little soybean plants. And you can see how loose and mellow the soil is and how aggregated it is, the good structure, just a sign of good biology. Here's an up-close picture of those soybean plants. And this is that same field in mid-July. Still got pretty good green color. The rows, they're starting to close in. He didn't want me to take this picture because it was full of weeds, but I didn't care it was full of weeds. And here's another picture of the soybean plants now in mid-July. What I counted on these soybean plants is 15 nodes. The more nodes you have, the more pods you can put on. The more pods you have, the more seeds you put in those pods, higher your yield. So it's all about nodes. You can see the amount of nodules right here too. Pretty good root system.
Was this fellow organic? No?
No.
Okay.
No. This is a Hutterite colony. They have hogs, and so they raise most of their corn they use to feed the hogs.
Are they using conventional corn, Dennis, or GMO?
GMO.
Oh.
We've tried to switch them, but they can't cover the acres. They farm 9,000 acres. 4,000 acres of that is corn. They say they can't cover the acres with herbicides. I'll just leave it at that. Here's a plant, corn plant.
You got to realize where these guys are. They're how far east of west of Huron?
West of Huron, oh, 65, 70 miles.
So, I mean, they're out there, and these soils are not good. I mean, if you look at the pictures in the back table are stuff we took a couple years ago. Take a look at those soybeans they had versus their neighbors. I mean, it's just unbelievable. A lot of fields look like that right over there, where there's holes missing out of them, you know, in that area. A lot of salting, high sodium.
That's another thing too with Millerdale. We're also treating their manure, and so we have good bio-augmented manure. They have a 15 million gallon primary lagoon and two 5 million gallon secondary and a third tertiary lagoon. But these two 5 million gallon lagoons, we're using that to make the NPF, the natural plant food. So we're breaking that down further than the large lagoon. And you know, we want to get the EC down to 6 or below so that we can use it for starter fertilizer, for foliar feeding, for spraying your Roundup, and you know, for any type of trip across that field they use that instead of water. So you're getting all these microbial bodies that you use to break that manure down in the first place is going out on your field. And we started with them 5 years ago, I think it was. He took and tried just a little bit of NPF on his wheat, and he had a 3 bushel response. And then he tried some little bit more, and then boom, they built 2 more lagoons to make their own NPF, and away they went. And we just keep moving them further into the program, and it keeps improving and improving. Just another corn plant. Again, look at the root hairs on that plant. And earthworms. We were talking about 10 to 15 earthworms per foot. Well, there's not 10 to 15 there, but there's 3 good-sized earthworms. And there's earthworm holes all over the soil. So they're just probably down deeper. But there's plenty of evidence of earthworms. And like Ken said earlier, if you have earthworms, that means you have the other biology to support the earthworms. You have the bacteria, you have the protozoa, you have the fungi, all to promote these guys. And I was talking about the lagoon. This is their 15 million gallon lagoon. This is all foam. This is an indication of good biology in your lagoon. You can stand right next to this lagoon and stand it. I mean, there's no smell whatsoever. And here's an activator in the background. We use that to pump it right back onto itself. It stimulates the ions on that surface, and it just drives the microbes nuts. And we'll hand it over to David.
Working with 4 CAP clients this year. 3 of them are up in the Vesta area, and the other one is down by Verdi, Minnesota. We have a 66-acre field here. He put on 200 pounds sulfur on the south half of the field. The north half of the field did not need it. And is that better?
Was it on?
No. Is that working now? Okay. 66-acre field. He put 200 pounds of sulfur on the south half of the field, 150 pounds of soft rock phos on the whole field. The north half of this field was the first time that I ran into a soil test where we had over 100 pounds of sulfur. And actually we had about 1,400 pounds of sulfur on there. So I asked him, I says, was there ever a feedlot over in this area or whatever? He goes, well, no, 10 years ago I got the dairy manure from the neighbor down the road. I said, how thick did you put it on? Oh, somewhere between 20 and 30 tons an acre. I said, okay, there's where our sulfur comes from. Average plant population right now is 31,000. He planted at 34. This has got the bio-seed coat. You can look at the root mass there on that plant. Bricks on 623 was a 6, and then again on 721 we were from 7 to 10.5 at 4 different spots across the field. Very nice color on this field. This field has a drainage issue. He's got high calcium, high magnesium, and part of the field's got high sulfur on that. Just from right now, looking at everything, I expect this field to get close to that 190, 200. Depends on the Goss's will. Another CAP client, this is east of Vesta. We have 618. The weekend, this is 618 was a Wednesday. The weekend before, there was 4 days where we gotten about 7 inches total rain in 4 different rains. This in the corner there's an intake there. This is where the water's setting. This was just before, that night we got 5 inches of rain. This is the south side of that. There's a driveway going up to his house. This is the south side of there on 721. The north side looks pretty much like the south side at this point in time. 200 pounds sulfur, 150 pounds soft rock phos. He did the biomineral 75 foliar biology boost. He had a bricks of 5 on 623 and then 10 on 721. So he's moving up. Looks really good in places out there. I think overall, again, I think we're probably going to hopefully, depending on the Goss's will, should be in that 190 to 210 range. Hopefully more. This is same client, but this is his soybean field on his dad's farm. 200 pounds on the south half of the field, and then biomineral 75. No seed coating on this client's crops. Again, this picture here, this is on the south side of the field. If you'll see, there's a drainage ditch right along here. The next day, this whole section was all underwater, but it's coming out of it. And this is the same field from a different angle on it, but looking good. And we're hoping, the beans do fairly decent here. Same CAP client, a different field. This is a field they just started farming this year. This was a relative's field. At that point in time, we were looking at about a 2-foot corn plant on the 23rd. He had a 5.5 bricks back then on non-721. This bricks was actually at 9 or 10. The only thing there, and Doug applied the hog manure on here, was 3,500 gallons an acre in the spring. And then they came in and planted corn on that. We're probably going to be looking at doing soft rock phos and elemental sulfur on there, on that one. Don't know who this guy is. 6th year of corn on corn. Last year he put 200 pounds sulfur, 160 pounds soft rock phos. The year before he put on 350 pounds of soft rock phos in the fall. The last 4 years, Doug, 3,500 gallons bio-augmented hog manure with cattle water egg at 3.2 ounces. This is the part that got me. Oh, I think I need to plow my residue under. I said, that's good. Ricky, don't go any more than 6 inches. We wound up at 10. It got buried. His ground is very, very mellow. This right here, braced roots, that's kind of give an indication. We did not have a shovel with us at that time. We just did that with our hands. Just dug it out with our hands real quick on there. And this is both on the 24th. You can tell it's a little over.
Yeah, those roots were developed at that point at 614, and I planted it, what was it,
You planted it on May 15th. It came up on May 22nd on that there. But yeah, it was doing really good. He used the Profit Coat, NB seed coat. He will apply Bulker right after tassel, which will probably be sometime next week. This is your 3rd year of non-GMO corn? Yeah. The Brix was 8 on 624, and we were 11 on 719 on there.
And we tested one of my organic guys, who's
Yes.
been organic for a quite a long time
Time.
now. He's going to start working with David, and his was at what, 13?
13.
Brix?
We tested an organic field.
Have you checked yours, Jerry? No. Okay.
Bulker is a product that we have available, and when it's put on the last 30 to 40 days in the life of a plant, especially something with a tuber like horseradish, potatoes, sugar beets, and we're working with it now in corn and other crops. What it does, it enhances the photosynthesis, and it really bulks the crop up, and we've seen some unbelievable results from that. So that's what Doug is going to be doing here on this corn.
And Doug did use Bulker last year. He put it on. He got, due to the Goss's wilt, we were doing yield checks in August 27th, right around that 225, 235 area. He came in at 154, test weight at 58.5 pounds. He applied Bulker on there, and I think that's what drove his test weight up. Cousin down the road only got 137, and his test weight was 57? I think it was 56 or 57.
Might have been corn on corn. The guys that had corn on corn didn't come close to that.
No. No. And like we said, this is the 6th year of corn on corn. You walk across his field, you can tell it's got a lot of biological activity going because it's mellow and soft on that. The fall plowing did help some on there to get the residue. We're hoping with the sulfur and the plowing of the residue that he will be a little less susceptible to Goss's wilt this year. Other observations, I have seen sulfur deficiencies in some fields around there. We had major compaction this fall, or the spring, Marshall, Vesta, Redwood area. The guys got excited. They got out there too early, too cold, too wet. We can see tractor tracks where they went on the field, what kind of an angle they used. There's some fields out there that are just a mess. They're going to be...
It's a minimum on a soil penetrometer as high as 500 pounds.
Yeah, 300 to 500 pounds. Uneven emergence in both corn and beans. We've got yellowing, and then some guys are thinking, well, it's lack of nitrogen. Well, that's part of it, but most of it, if you stop and take a look and see where it is, it's from lack of oxygen in the root zone because the soils are so compacted. Prior year's crop residue not breaking down. You dig down 2, 3, 4 inches in a lot of these places, and there's still corn stalks and stuff there from years prior on that.
And Doug, you should be getting to the point where if you need to for 2 years put on something in the fall to get that residue broken down, I think would be better than going out there with the excessive tillage.
I told David, I said, I'll just have to use my Steiger as a showpiece out at Farm Fest.
Yeah. Oh, you had a Steiger you had to use, huh?
Yeah, Ricky tested out the new Steiger last fall.
So he hooked onto that, and he had it on the 9630T, and when he hooked it on the Steiger, well, he was going 10, well, he could pull it 10 miles an hour, but I kept him at 7, that was as slow as I could keep him, but then he was going 10 inches deep just because he could pull it. I think he was going closer to 12.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta keep.
Where's the fire? Where's the fire?
Well, and here's the problem I ran into, and I didn't discover it until now, all this here discussion. Because I had not plowed anything in 20 years, I had some weed seed buried underneath the waves. So as he rolls all this soil up, I had a couple thistle patches. And you guys were talking about thistle, and I have not had thistles out there in 15 years. Couldn't figure out where the heck did they come from. Well, after talk, now the discussion we had, now I know. We rolled that under from the plow, and it's seed that's been down there for 20 years, but still has germination to it.
Is it possible to go so fast that you knock the oxygen out of the soil?
That could be, that could happen, but I would say in his case where he's got a little better organic matter in the soil, he's got an organic matter right in that 4 to 4.5 range.
Okay.
That helped him.
Yeah.
That helped him. We got the crop residue buried, so we're hoping this is going to be something that will reduce the Goss's wilt.
You talk to my neighbors, and they'll tell you they can't believe I don't have no crop residue, but I think a lot of that has to do from being conventional. I think if it was Roundup, it probably
Might be a different story.
Probably wouldn't decay as well,
But the other thing that you're doing, you're putting on 3,500 gallons of hog manure. You got biology coming in there. The cattle water, and then the other thing that we've been starting to use is the biorelease and some of these other biologicals. We're starting to see this up. We did a soil biology test, and we looked it up this morning in the room, and he has 8 active fungi, but his fungi pool is 456. A lot of guys don't have the pool, so we're going to go back with a plan of attack. We got to get some biorelease out there and stimulate that and get that going a little more on that. We were happy to see that. Yes, he does have 1,315 bacterial pool. We're out of balance, we know that, but we got to get things headed in the right direction. We want a bacterial fungi ratio of 1 to 1.
But when I compare it to neighbor fields, I'm substantially light years ahead. I wished I owned the land.
Ideally, if your biology is working right on the residue, for the most part, if it's working right, you know, in the spring, 90% of it should be gone, and by the time you get in July, it should all be gone. Yeah, and that's just through microbial activity. Yeah.
And we're getting closer there. We just need a few more of the fungi to get activated here.
And see, and I wanted to plow it last fall. If I could have got a guarantee from Ken that I would get that Goss's Will product, I would have plowed it, but I felt that might be.
You were burying the Goss's wilt residue because you had it pretty tough. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing we have noticed in the last 2 years, we've had some bigger rain events in June, and normally he would have areas of the field that would pond and stay ponded for 5-7 days.
So that was the last guy to train.
Yeah, he's last on the county line. That's not happening anymore.
And the neighbors can't figure it out because they're still putting water ponds in their field, which they know has to pressure through mine, and mine does not have the water system. And they're trying to scratch their heads, what the heck is going on here? He's at the bottom end where the dredge ditch drains in, and he doesn't have a water set. Now they're slowly starting to figure things out, but it takes time.
You know, they had a water rain event like that, but the water had a tendency to disperse throughout the soil profile more.
Well, it was 7.5 inches, because I talked to Jim Deering at the Redmond County office. 7.5 inches in less than 8 hours.
Yeah. So, I think that's everything I have. Okay, and we're done. Questions?
Fuel plowed or chisel plowed?
Plowed, moldboard plowed.
All right, it's staying in 10 inches.
Well, we started him at 6.
he was supposed to go shallower.
We said
Just to
only
bury
6
the
inches, because all we wanted, because we had just applied the soft rock, the elemental soft rock, and the Hogmanor, all just had been applied. Ricky, 6 inches. We just want you to turn it, no more.
I
Keep it
should
up
have
there.
had a 20 bottom follow. Not that I know a little bit of things,
But if you're out there working, you gotta make the track.
well, and you gotta have fun, yeah.
You're gonna make that puff smoke, right?
Any other questions? Well, thank you guys for coming down, and appreciate it. Jim?
Thanks, Dave and Dennis. Okay, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Miles, thank you for being here. You had a really good presentation and demo. Enjoyed that. I think we had a good discussion today on cover crops. I hope you gained some additional insight on that. And what I think that, like Miles said, try a few acres. Not that you have to do your whole farm, but find somebody with cover crops that's knowledgeable, like TJ or Matt or whatever, and just put your toe in the water a little bit. We're here to help you. If you need anything, give one of us a call. I think you got our information on top on your folder that you're going to take home. And I want to thank John for all his hard work of getting everything documented. We appreciate Ken being here and TJ. Yes.
Just remember, everything is on the website, so if you have anyone that you'd like to refer to the website to see some of the sections and sessions, Dr. Mayfield will be on there, and I'm going to leave it on the website for, at least.
Yep. And in the future, when we have a program, if you enjoyed being here, tell others. Let's get them here. There'll be additional programs as we go into the fall, obviously. So we will be at Farm Fest. Look us up.
I think Miles said so.
Yep, Miles, you had.
Not to plug it, but no-tillfarmer.com has a forum on there. And if you ever have any questions, you can go on the open forum, you can type in your question, and there's almost always at least one farmer that will answer your question, if not a bunch of them. I mean, and you can go on there and you can read conversations from the past because they never delete them. And no-tillfarmer.com, and then they have a forum tab, and they have different topic items. They have strictly no-till, they have strip-till questions on there, they have cover crop questions on there. I know when I was starting the Freeborn County Soil Health Team, I posted on there, are there any farmers that no-till or something like that? I had 2 farmers in 2 days respond, and they're now on our soil health team. That's the Mark Diddleson and Fritz Jensen, the 2 ridge tillers that we work in. And within 2 days, they both responded and said, "Hey, would you consider ridge till close to no-till or a healthier type of tillage system?" Yeah, so I met with them and I learned from them, and now they're part of our team. So very quick responses. People are on there all the time asking questions. There's even a line in there for equipment. If you need closing wheels or something like that, you want to know if anybody has experience with your type of soil and a certain closing wheel or an opener, put it on there. There's a lot of people that use that. And it's nationwide. It's not just this area. It's nationwide. So you get people from North Carolina, California, to Minnesota.
Okay, I almost forgot. But as a thanks for coming, we got our new hats here. And this is something that I always believe in that try to start with the end in mind. Know what your journey's going to be, okay? Where do you want to end up? So think about that and develop a plan to get there. If you want healthier crops or bigger root systems, then what does that look like in your mind? Think about it, visualize it, dream it, and then hopefully your dreams will come true. So you don't have to take one, but if you'd like to have a hat, there they are. We got some more over here. Please, just one per person because they're getting a little bit expensive. And so thank you again for coming. And I want to thank, again, Dennis and Dave and the whole staff here, and Karen for helping put it on, and John, what he did. It was a tough year getting people out. It seems like the year drug on, but yet now we're almost into August. Before we know it, the state fair will be here, and then we'll be into harvest. But a lot of people on vacation and other things that came up. We had a lot more people lined up to come, and they just kind of fell off one at a time for different reasons. But hopefully we reached a lot of people through the effort John made online here, streaming it. So with that, drive safely home.
Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, you know, see, trip home was right. Fly home, right?
I went to Minneapolis last year. Next thing you know, I'm going around the circle.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Question for you. I've got a hog barn opening. What's the extensive that you can make it into? Is it before you gotta have several containers used?
No, it's just a matter of what we actually isolate and not put any wrong in. And let it cook over time.
Because we don't use barn.
Yeah, how many gallons is it? Yeah, and then, like what Millerdale does and many of the other people, because every time they spray it, it's in water. And then they'll also use it as a carryover starter. So, to answer your questions, if you put some of the beef in there, or if you have
It's the hog barn on the water. It's no more water. You need fish in there. It's like gestation and nurture in there. Big side.
what I'd probably say is maybe a little bit of that, about a third with 2/3 of your family.
And then you use a higher rate of the.
And put it in a little bit more.
Yeah, it would be better. And you filter it.
What Charlie Cole had.
You probably already
have
R3
and
and
R5. Glue down so the slots are open.
R3.
It's got 4 bends with a slot. Hits in it.
R5.
That's the primary.
Yeah.
C.
So I mean, that's something.